Well, good morning and hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning into this YouTube interview with Steven Rossi, who is the CEO of Worksport, which is a NASDAQ-listed microcap company, but there's a lot going on there that I think is going to intrigue investors, going to intrigue the retail investing public, and is going to provide a lot of opportunity considering the stock where it is and kind of what the future looks like. But first, before we do that, I want you to meet Steven. I want you to understand who the CEO of this company is so that you get a better sense of who he is characteristically, and then how he's kind of running this company and what he has to say about it. So let me first start by saying he's got over 2 decades of entrepreneurial experience, right? He started in the business and at 18 years old, launching his first auto parts store. For those of you who don't know, Worksport is an auto industry type business. We'll get to that in a moment. I'll let him talk more about it. But just so you understand, he's had this experience since he's been 18 years old, right? He is now the founder and CEO of Worksport, listed on the NASDAQ, right? He's got a team dedicated to designing and producing very innovative products in North America, right? He's also had the privilege of working with some of the best and brightest entrepreneurs in the world, right? His success is driven by a robust portfolio of over 150 patents and trademarks. That's key and that's important. And throughout his career, he's embraced challenges and opportunities for growth, fostering Worksport's expansion in the automotive and energy sectors. And I think it's really the energy sector part of this story that is actually very intriguing. Certainly the automotive part is as well, but I really think the energy sector part of the story adds a whole new level of understanding of who this company is. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steve Rossi. Steve, it is a pleasure to speak to you. Thanks for taking out the time. Thanks for wanting to talk to me. Tell us just a little bit about, like I said, tell us a little bit about Steve so we get a sense of who you are. I want you to be my next door neighbor. I want to walk over to your door and knock on the door and say, come over for dinner. Talk to me about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. First, yeah, thanks for taking the time with me today, Kenny. Yeah, I mean, you covered some of the high level points. I started my first business at 18, and it was auto parts. I was just a kid. I dropped out of second year college. I took my...
Yeah, but you're just a kid now. You can't be much older than 35 or 36, yeah?
38. I'm 38, but I was...
38. You look damn good for 38.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Dropped out. I took my tuition. I rented a little office, and I just started selling parts, knocking on doors. And it was a school of hard knocks. This is stuff that you can't learn from books. I built this little business. I didn't have any business. I started knocking on doors, cold calling, up, deal with customers. Fast forward, I'm in my early 20s. I built one of the fastest growing auto parts chains. I had employees. I got into wrecking. I owned auto wrecking yards. I was doing great.
Tell the audience, though, you're located in Canada, correct? You're not in the United States.
Toronto, yeah. Like my stomping grounds are Toronto, yeah. So,
and that's where you're from. You were born and brought up there. Is that right? So you started this whole door-to-door business up in Canada.
Yeah, I was just a kid, yeah, up in Toronto. So
yeah,
and that was a school of hard knocks. In essence, I learned how to sell. I learned, the saying goes, you eat what you kill. So I had grown this chain of wrecking yards. I had all this business, and I fell in love with trucks and covers. Sold my businesses, took all the money that I had, and founded Worksport. An interesting part is that now this was 2011. In the business, I thought I was rich. I was a 20-year-old kid with $500,000 in my pocket. I was the richest kid in the block, but it wasn't enough. So I went to one of my friends and I said, hey, you're in the capital markets. Can you help us raise some more money? Because we have this big demand. I'm always waiting to get paid to buy more products. And we were making tonneau covers in China.
Tunnel. So what's interesting is you said truck covers. You mean the bed covers on the truck. You don't mean a truck cover.
Yeah, truck. So yeah, sorry. So call them, tonneau covers for pickup trucks, Ford, Dodge. And the number one interesting fact, Kenny, the average person that earns over $200,000 a year in the U.S. drives an F-150. So it's like a million trucks on the road. It's a niche market.
The F-150, by the way, is a really sharp truck these days.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Very sharp truck.
So I founded Worksport to make tonneau covers, make them in China. I needed more money to be able to grow that business. We got into the United States, and I realized we didn't have anywhere near enough. In 2014, to get access to capital, we actually went public. I'm in my mid-20s, and I'm the CEO now of an OTC public company.
Right.
so we went public 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So I have 20 years of business experience I never, since the day I turned 18, I never worked for anyone in my life. And I've got, and I've got 11 years in the capital market. So a lot of times when investors invest in a business, a small business, they're investing in management. And when they're investing in me, what you're getting is I've only known being an entrepreneur my whole life, and I've been able to navigate the capital markets and Wall Street fairly efficiently. So that's kind of my background. I can get more into Worksport, of course.
Yeah, no, sure. And we're going to get into more Worksport because Worksport is while we're here. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the symbol WKSP.
SP.
Okay, Worksport. Just for everyone out there, you can look it up on NASDAQ. WKSP, I think it trades today, I can tell you, it's traded about what, 60 cents a share. I think, is that about right? Let's see.
55, 60, something like that.
Yeah. Just so that people understand, right? Where it's a nano cap company, right? It is up, it's at 51 cents. It's up a little bit today. But it provides, I think, after you hear this story, I think that it provides a very interesting opportunity, right? That people need to understand their own portfolio and how they invest. But they need to really kind of listen to his story because I think he's done incredible things with this. And look, I think what's interesting is as I told your partner the other day when I had the initial conversation, I didn't understand. I don't own a truck. I'm 63 years old. I've kind of passed those years. I had one when I was younger, but I don't have one now and all that stuff. Anyway, my next door neighbor has got a Ford F-150. And on the back of his Ford F-150 is this cover. And so I'd never seen it before. It's not like a plastic cover, but it's a roll-up, it's a roll-up cover, which I thought was very interesting. So I said to him, what is this? He goes, it's the greatest thing. It's how do you pronounce it? Tonneau?
Oh, yeah.
Tonneau cover. And so, and then I ended up having this conversation with your partner. I go, oh my God, my next door neighbor has one of these. And I had never seen it before, was the point. Now, suddenly, I live down here in Florida. I live in West Palm Beach. I live in North Palm Beach, but I see them all over. Everyone's got trucks, like you say. And a lot of them have these covers on the back of them. And so people want to know where they come from, and they actually come from you. Right?
Yeah,
they're your covers, which I think is very interesting. So we talk about the covers, but then I also, at some point later on in this broadcast, I want you to talk about where you're venturing into. And I think the energy space that you're venturing into is actually even more exciting to this story than the cover itself. Because the cover itself is great, I think, but the energy that the space you're moving into, I think provides a lot of opportunity. So let's just talk a little bit about, okay, so you came public 11 years ago. The stock today is trading kind of in a tight range, although when you first came public, it actually had a fairly significant move, and then it's kind of backed off. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we went public in 2014, and from 2014 to 2019, I was figuring it out. I was like a one-man shop. But then in 2019, I started kind of talking about this patent and this design that me and my father worked up of like a solar tunnel cover. Like, hey, what do things look like in the future? So you don't have to be the best, you got to be the first. So we patented a design on a folding solar tunnel cover to turn trucks into roaming power stations, or thought, hey, people are going to make an EV truck one day. So when I started telling the market, like investors and customers and bankers about this solar tunnel cover, they always loved the idea. So we really focused on that idea. And in 2021, we went to go raise 4 million. And we started, and then journalists started covering the story because it went viral, and it was also a very interesting time. We raised a lot more money, and we were able to uplist to the NASDAQ. And what we were able to do with our story and with the amount of money that we raised, I was going to raise $4 million for the company to make more products in China. With the money that we raised, I said I could close the curtains and rebuild this company as every nut and bolt, every drop of paint comes from American soil. And that's what we built now. We raised money in 2021, 22, 23, 3 years later, we have a 15-acre site with a 250,000 square foot factory. Over 90% of the raw material that goes into our product is mined from American soil. And we have a fully made, American-made product now that's really, really growing. Now, the last thing I'll say, Kenny, is that we talk about tunnel covers and how it is like a less like a niche market. But we say that Sony started with a rice cooker. And we always focused on tangible profitability. We're going to make our rice cooker. It's not as exciting, and we're going to use the profit. We're going to sell the hell out of that product, build the hell out of that brand, and use the profit from those sales to fund future innovations. A lot of companies these days, they just raise money and they put it into these crazy ventures that they're not really ready for yet. But this base cover now, I mean, our revenues are through the roof this year. We have a breakout year.
You have a breakout year, so we're going to talk about that in a minute. I just want to say the one thing about the solar covers is everyone knows the back of a truck, the bed of a truck is a fairly big space. So generating solar power from a cover that covers the back of the truck makes perfect sense to me. But you're also moving out of just the solar cover and you're moving into portable batteries, I guess, right? Is that what you're going to call them? Portable batteries that are also charged solar.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, they're charged from solar. So we thought about a solar tonneau cover. It forks. If you got a gas or diesel truck, you bolt a solar cover. You want a tonneau cover anyway. Adding solar doesn't add too much to the cost. And now you turn your truck into a power station. So job site, campsite, natural disaster, first responder, border patrol, all those people can now turn their truck into power stations. If you got an F-150 Lightning or a Rivian or a Tesla, you can plug our solar cover in with OEM integration. And what's interesting, Kenny, is the average American drives less than 30 miles a day, and our cover under perfect conditions can provide 10 miles. So we take 33% of the power off the grid to charge these vehicles from the sun. So it's a very meaningful amount of power, very meaningful.
Right. But I would imagine, I live in Florida, right? So the sun's always out, except when we go through hurricanes and tornadoes like we had a week ago. But barring that, the sun is out for most of the day. Versus, I know it's out also because your plant is in Buffalo, New York. Am I correct?
Buffalo, New York.
Sun is out in Buffalo, New York. The weather's different. I don't know if that actually affects how solar covers work. Cold weather versus warm weather.
It's all about irradiance, and irradiance is how powerful that sun is. And what's interesting is the average day out in Arizona can be like 800 watts per square meter is a measure.
Right.
The crispest day in Toronto or Calgary or somewhere where it's really cold, like we're talking negatives, right?
Yeah.
Much stronger sun, 1100 watts per.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. The colder the weather, the less cloud obstruction, the clearer the atmosphere, and the more pure the sun is. So actually, in colder weather, solar works better than in hot weather. Now, not to say, but it's a trade, because in hot weather, you have more sun. In cold weather, you have less sun, but like maybe the sun sets earlier, all that kind of stuff, but it's more powerful. So it really balances out beautifully.
That's interesting. I see something. I just learned something new because in my mind, I always thought in cold weather parts of the world that the solar wasn't going to work as well as obviously in Florida. I walk outside here, it's always 90 degrees outside, right? It's beautiful, it's sunny, it's right. But I will say the days are longer down here in Florida than they are up in Canada, just because of the way the world is. So you might get more time powering the solar panel than you might up in the northern parts of the world. But the fact is, I guess it's just really interesting. That's a very interesting detail.
More dense energy.
Cold weather, it actually is more efficient.
Yeah. So yeah, it is more efficient. It's you get higher energy concentration in the coldest days in these when the sky is perfectly clear and you can't see anything, it's so bright. But then we thought about for the trucks that have gas motors that want a solar panel, we thought, well, the solar panel's got to charge something. So we created a battery generator. So people that are, let's say in Manhattan, they're walking around in the middle of Manhattan, they see those food carts, and it stinks because they always have those gas generators. Think about our generator as that same gas generator, no gasoline, battery,
no gas
charge. It's the next big thing. The market's exploding, and we started thinking about battery generators. But what's interesting now is it expands our market, Kenny, because you don't have to have a pickup truck to buy our battery generator. You, Kenny, yourself can take one of our battery generators, plug it into your wall, use it on your fishing boat, use it in your property, use it on the campsite, job site, wherever you want, charge it from a wall outlet, charge it from the solar panel. So by expanding our tonneau covers and being creative there, we've been able to expand to a global market for anybody, anywhere.
Right. Right. So I got to tell you something. And when I was talking to your partner a couple of days ago, it was right when Florida and this part of the country and the world was going through, this terrible hurricane and tornado. And you think about immediately, what are you going to do if you lose power, right? How are you going to charge anything? How are you going to stay in touch? And I saw they sent me a picture of your battery. Your battery is not this big, heavy battery that you can't carry around. It's actually fairly well designed. It's not, I think they said it weighs what, 40 pounds? 40, is that what it weighs, 40 pounds?
40 pounds, it comes in two parts. So, you know, your part
Right,
someone
comes
with
in two
carry
parts,
20
so
of it,
right,
and, yeah.
20 pounds and 20 pounds, exactly right.
Yeah.
So, and then you can set it up, right? And not necessarily be out of touch. Let me ask a question, because you made the point about like the streetcar vendors. Could somebody set this battery up with the solar panel so that it's charging while they're using it?
Yep, absolutely. So we have an addressable market for, yeah, job site, campsite is our first thing. For the average individual, whether it's a taxi driver in Guadalajara to you know, a pizza store owner in Poland, it doesn't matter. Anyone can use our battery generator. It'll power anything you'd plug into a wall outlet. So your fridges, your stoves, like not the big plugs, but like normal wall appliances.
Yeah.
It powers, like, it'll power a fridge for like probably 3 or 4 days without needing to be recharged. But then if you integrate it in your food truck or your first responder and you have medical devices and you have it in your ambulances, if you integrate it into those technologies, it now expands into a much larger addressable market for those that are remote power. Let's say even first responders, medical, military, these types of things. You set up a solar, you set up our battery generator, and you have clean, uninterrupted power for the first responders, for the hurricane responders, these types of things.
Okay, so you need to get that story out. That's the part of the story that I think is so fascinating, right? You also need to align yourself with, you know, a place like Dick's Sporting Goods, right? A place that they have camping and people that do that stuff, that are out in the wilderness, they're either hunting or they're fishing or they're camping or whatever they need. And I'm sure, are there, I asked your partner for, who's your competitor? Who are you competing against for this market?
So let me set the stage. The competitor, we're American made. Everything we design is here within North America. Every molecule of our product is made here.
Yep.
Competitor is a Chinese owned, Chinese built company. So they don't have home turf advantage. They're looking through a telescope, you know, obviously, figuratively speaking, into the American market. And what they have is they have this square box full of batteries. It's not
Right.
it doesn't have hot swap. It has it's just basic. And they're last year they pulled $2 billion out of the American economy and Americans in sales and sucked it right out to China. With us,
Yep.
they're our biggest competitor. They're called EcoFlow. They're huge. They're formidable. Don't get me wrong, but we have home turf advantage and we have a more highly innovative product. That's our major competitor at this point, is basically the Chinese, for lack of a better way of saying it.
So you no, and that's fine. But so there's the other part of your story. Your story is we're American made. We manufacture in this country. We contribute to the country's economy. We provide jobs. We're located in Buffalo, New York, right? All that is part of the story that, quite honestly, you need to get out there. That's good. I think that's a key part of the story, especially for people that are becoming more sensitive to you know, the supply chain, right? And you know, always going to China for stuff when we can make it right here in our own backyard. And then, you know, if I need to, I can call somebody on the phone right here in our own backyard, right? I'm in Buffalo, New York.
That's what we do. If we got a problem, and if we have a paint problem, it's an hour flight to Michigan, you know, to deal with our painter, for example. And I'm going to tell you one thing: you take our product out of our American factory, ship it to China, and ask them to copy it. Say, copy this product, give me a quote. I can guarantee you, Kenny, the quote that they give you is going to be more expensive than I can make it for in America by Americans. We've outsmarted made in China with clever supply chain, clever engineering, and a lot of automation as well.
Okay, that's actually a great theme. We've outsmarted China. I think that's a great talking point, right? In terms of how you've manufactured it, what it provides, the cost of it, all that stuff. I think you need to somehow incorporate that into your marketing campaign, because I think that's a great talking point.
Yeah,
right.
You can't make our product anywhere else in the world for less than we can make it for here, and that's
right.
And it supports local. Yeah, it's just a fantastic.
Right. So, do you have plans to partner up with, like I said, a Dick's Sporting Goods or other sporting companies that are going to give you more exposure? How does somebody buy your product?
So right now, the tonneau covers are available through dealers. There's 17,000 dealers in America. We're slowly getting more and more of them. We don't have all those 17,000 dealers of automotive goods, but we're working our way through them. We're in contact every day. We're adding 2 or 3 or 4 new dealers.
With all manufacturers, it's not just Ford.
No, yeah, it's dealers. It's like, let's call it Kenny's Automotive Accessories or
Right. Okay, I got you.
no, these businesses. So we're starting with dealer. The two
Yep.
markets are dealers and direct to consumer on our website, because the direct to consumer, we're able to have a personal touch with the consumer and get feedback.
Yep.
With the
Yep.
dealers, these are like our sales guys on the road in these
Yep.
small communities. We've had conversations with almost every major automaker in America and Koreans. We have a partnership with Hyundai, the Dicks, the Home Depots, the Lowe's. Kenny, I'll tell you, and I think that you may identify that there's experience speaking here when I say this, is when you start a new business and you go straight into a Dick's or a Home Depot, that business can pick you up, turn you upside down, and leave you for dead like that. It's dangerous. So what I'm saying is we've had conversations, but we're not necessarily ready for that type of the Home Depot's got 30,000 stores, I think, in America. It's insane.
Yep. Yeah.
So we've had conversations, but we're trying to build a solid supply and manufacturing chain first. Then we know that there's strategic opportunities with, like, we've had a conversation, for example, with management at Coleman. You know, Coleman that makes products. It's like maybe there's co-branding opportunities, or the smoker companies that make these smokers and all these different things.
Does Coleman have a product like yours?
They have everything, but that I know of, they have no battery generators.
That's right. So they don't have your product.
No,
So
and
something like Coleman would be a natural conversation for you.
it might be like hey, how about a Coleman branded product, and we're like, like Intel inside or something.
Exactly. They could white label your product.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's possible. So we want to be able to grow into larger markets, but we want to start with a solid foundation first. But obviously, we need to grow. I mean, look, last year we had $1 million year.
Right.
This year,
so let's talk about that. What does $1 million year mean to you versus, lay that out for me. Came from where?
Yeah, so we started with nothing, and then we raised money. We shut down basically all of our little bits of business that I had built from in the early years. I stopped it. I stopped importing from China, and I closed the curtains because the business wasn't big enough yet. So I could still kind of I can close business without losing a lot. It's not like we were just in some dealers. We reopened the factory. And the year that we opened the factory, we hit about $1 million in sales. We opened it right at the end of last year. So
$1 million in sales, is that break even? Are you losing money? Give me a sense of where you are.
We're losing money. We're losing money. Our because the factory is 250,000 square feet. There's like 50 to 100 employees. So we have to invest heavily into equipment, the building.
Right.
Building. The building's 10 million. The equipment's 10 plus million.
Yep.
It's So last year we clipped.
It's not an inexpensive business, is what you're saying.
No. But we clipped a little bit of business at the end of the year as a proof of concept. Like, hey, as soon as we open up the factory, we got some business out of it. But then this year, we started building on that and perfecting our system and our process on our tonneau covers, just the tonneau covers, our rice cooker, and we're at $1 million month. Every month, our run rate.
$1 million a month. So you're a $12 million run rate.
Yeah, maybe even more by now. I think that we're going to leave this year at about a $15 million run rate. And we've only just started expanding. We're just stretching our legs a little bit now. The goal for next year is $1 million weeks. I mean, the goal next year is to grow and to continue the pace. On the tonneau cover business, we can hit 9 figures. On the battery business, I think that we can hit, like I said, the Chinese competitor, they pulled over $1 billion out of the economy last year. I'm not saying we're going to get there overnight. They got 2,000 engineers working there, but we have a target of middle market to upper middle market in a very short term. Break even for us is a $15 million run rate. At $15 million, we're about break even.
Okay, so essentially you're right at break even, and if what you say is true, you're right about at break even. You're kissing break even.
Give or take. So what we did is, obviously when an engine first starts, it's the least efficient. So we're working on our efficiency in producing our product, and we're also bringing our operational overhead down. So the two numbers meet, somewhere around very, very short to where we are now, like around where we are now in sales. We're a break even and then working on and then profitable company that we don't need to raise money and dilute and sell shares. We're on our own 2 feet, and that's what puts us in the strongest position to be able to grow from there.
Okay, great. So let's just talk about this for a little bit. Tell the audience it's a narrow cap company. So what is the market cap of your company?
We're like, I think we hover between 15 to 18 million dollars.
15, $18 million, right? And you trade in terms of the average daily volume. Do you have any idea what that is?
300, 400,000.
a day.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's not like there's no liquidity. 300,000 shares in a nano cap stock is actually pretty decent, right? Today
Yeah,
it's
there's a lot
trading
worse.
at, I'm just looking at it. Today it's trading at 51, almost 52 cents. And it's up a little bit, but I think that this is a very interesting story. It's one that has certainly piqued my curiosity, and one that I want to watch and kind of, take a stake, and I'm gonna dip my toes a little bit, and see what happens. Remember though, that again, a nano cap stock, you're going to get a lot of the trader types, right? You're not going to get, until you start to show consistent revenue growth and consistent, the interest in your products, which you're starting to do. Then you're going to get more people that are going to buy and hold. But for a lot of times, you're going to get people that are buying, right? They want to buy it at 51 cents, sell it at 53 cents, buy it back at 50 cents, sell it at 52 cents, which is a little bit frustrating for you for sure. As a CEO of a listed company, that's not what you want to see happen. But you got to jump that hurdle first, right? You got to get over it. And so it sounds to me like you're making strong headway in getting over it. You need to tell this. You need to get this story out, because I think it's a very interesting story. You need to think about partnering up with, like you said, like we talked about, whether it's Dick's or whether it's Home Depot and Lowe's. You want to do it properly. You want to do it methodically, which is the way you should do it. So. Kudos to you, because I think it sounds like a great story. On the other hand, last week when we had that storm, I'm sitting there going, okay, what am I going to do because I don't have a generator. So what am I going to do if the lights go out, right? And so it is something I'm probably going to reach out and buy just so I have it. Listen, it may not run my house forever, but I do want to have it in the event that there's a short-term loss of power. I'm not a camper. I will say I'm not a camper, but I am a boater. I love to go out and walk. So there you go. So
me too.
No, I'm happy to do that.
I get it 100%. I think that, the idea is to have our battery generators in the cupboards of every home in America for that stormy day. Even if
for that stormy day.
Yeah, that's if
right.
you pull it out once in a while.
Do you have a YouTube channel or social media? Let everyone know what your channels are, your social media channels.
Across all the boards at Worksport Ltd. So Worksport, just as it sounds, Worksport Ltd.
Limited.
Yeah, Ltd. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all of it. We're
right. It's all one word. Worksport Limited is Worksport Ltd. is all one word. There's no dots or nothing.
Yep.
Great. And you're on Twitter. You're on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and I think that's it.
Right. And okay, and who's doing? Is it you doing? Is it you or Farron or the other people? Who's doing the who's posting to those places? Like who's the person in charge of that?
We have a social media manager that takes care of all.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
great at it.
I think it's great. I'm going to start looking those up. I want to see what kind of stuff he's putting out there or she's putting out there to build this brand, because I think it sounds like a very, very exciting brand. And look, the world is changing. There's electric vehicles coming. They absolutely are. There might be a pushback now, but come on, let's be honest. They are going to make electric vehicles. They will become a better priced, for sure. But the world's going to change. There's a lot of infrastructure that has to happen before you can just expect the world to convert to electric vehicles. But your product, brings the idea of portable electricity to a lot of people, especially people in rural areas too. Certainly places in North Carolina and parts of Florida that got whacked last week, 2 weeks ago. Would be well off if they have access to a product like yours. If to do nothing else than to charge their phones and keep the radio on, so they can hear what's going on, right? Yeah,
exactly. And that's what our goal is. Also, long term with the battery generators, is we plan to have the battery generators as like a product as a service. So we have like let's 5,000 units available for rapid deployment, for that natural disaster or for like short-term rent. So we do plan on doing stuff like that as well long term.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's great. So I think you need, that's another part of the story. I think you need to get out there, right? But I don't want to make you grow too fast, because then you trip, and you don't want to trip. That's your point. You want to be methodical about how you do it. Anyway, listen, what else you want to talk about? I think we've covered a lot. I think you've told this story. I think it's an exciting story. It's nice to meet you. I love that beard, by the way. My beard used to be that color until I, got older. Then it turned all white. But, listen, my beard is my years of experience, right?
The wisdom.
You'll get there. Right. When it turns white, you're full of wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. That's the miles on your feet. But yeah, I think that's it. We covered basically everything. Obviously, I'd love to sit down and have another conversation with you as an
Sure.
But I think that general, yeah, we're focused on profitable growth. Once we get
Yeah.
profitable, then that's when all bets are off, and I think that we start to really take off.
Looking at your Bloomberg page right now, it shows that it tells me that your next earnings report is November 14th. Is that about right?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll be watching for that. We'll be watching for any press that comes out around that, either before or after. You should make sure that, one thing because we're now in the middle of earnings season, I would say to you, especially, you should make sure that any press that goes out ahead of time, that, you're comfortable with what analysts are saying about you in terms of your growth rates and all that stuff. Make sure that's accurate, right? You don't want to disappoint the market, is what I'm saying, by having these analysts with really high expectations, and you're in the middle, because it'll only hurt you. So make sure that your communication lines with your analysts that are covering you properly, and that they're not overestimating, because that'll just come back to kick you in the ass.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good idea, and I'll continue.
Yeah, and I'm not telling you to tell, but just make sure that they understand your space, and make sure they understand, kind of your growth rates, because that's going to be what helps what helps to sell this story.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. Well, we're going to try to hedge expectations and always under promise and over deliver. That's
right. I think that's always the right thing to do. Under promise and over deliver. 1,000%. You're better off doing that than the other way, right? You want to surprise people to the upside. You don't want to surprise them to the downside, right?
Yeah. And sometimes unexpected stuff happens, but if you stay conservative,
Understood. And then if you're conservative and unexpected things happen, you can explain it away, right? But if you disappoint and nothing unexpected happens, then that's a different story, right? That's why you want to be methodical about it, and you want to make sure that you're getting the right coverage, and that you're also promoting it properly yourself. And it seems like you are across your social media spaces. So, I look forward to having another conversation with you whenever you want, because I'm going to follow this story now, right? And like I told you, I'm going to dip my toes in, because I just want to, it always helps me kind of feel like, I'm part of it then, right? Because I've got skin in the game.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, of course, just let me know. But it was good. I think we covered everything in general, and I appreciate the feedback you had, and then also the interest. I mean, if people are interested, it means that there's something there. We're building.
And listen, like I said, I'm not a truck owner, but I can certainly see the benefit of it. And like I said, my next door neighbor, when I started there, I started to laugh. I'm going, wow, that's so funny. I'd never seen it before. Now suddenly it's right next door to me.
Now you'll notice them.
And now that I see it, I'm sure I'm going to start to see it more, because especially down here in Florida, people take care of their stuff, like their trucks and all that stuff. So I'm sure there's a ton of them around.
Oh yeah.
So I'll see more of them as I start to kind of look for them.
Florida, Texas, Georgia, obviously huge truck states.
Yeah, huge truck, right? Huge truck population.
Yeah.
And like I said, the trucks they're designing today are actually really fancy and nice, right? They're comfortable.
Interesting to say, GM, General Motors, their newest technology goes in their Sierra Denali before anything else. Like their autopilot, their hybrid, all the endowments start in it doesn't go up to the truck later. It starts with the pickup truck.
Starts with the pickup truck. Right. So you make sure you're there, right? Make sure that you're connected to them. Make sure that, truck owners have the opportunity to look at your products, right?
Yep. That's the idea. So, good, Kenny.
All right, great. Hold on one second. I just want to say thank you very much for this time. Thank you very much for kind of enlightening, the investors, enlightening me, and enlightening really the world on your product, where you manufacture it, how you manufacture it. And I love the tagline, "We beat China at their own game." I love that tagline.
You outsmarted Made in China.